in the league in regards to Clark, starting with WNBA legend Cheryl Swoops herself. She recently spoke on her podcast, Queens of the Court, and didn't mention the rookie when speaking of Indiana's rise in the standings.
Something massive is quietly brewing beneath the surface of professional women's basketball, and now the truth is finally beginning to spill out into the open in a way that almost nobody predicted. For months, fans watched with a strange mix of awe and confusion as the most celebrated rookie in the history of the sport stepped onto the professional stage, only to be met with a bizarre and highly coordinated wave of hostility. Everyone saw the cheap shots, the tense press conferences, and the unmistakable eye rolls from veterans who had spent years playing in half-empty arenas. On television, it looked like simple competitive jealousy, the normal friction between newcomers and established stars. But behind the scenes, something far more serious was taking shape. What seemed like ordinary rivalry was actually masking a growing internal rebellion that nearly pushed the entire league toward chaos. Rumors of private meetings, locker room ultimatums, and deep resentment toward the league's new face had been circulating quietly for months. Fans kept asking what was really happening once the cameras stopped rolling. Then everything changed when Stephen A. Smith suddenly went completely off script and confirmed something that stunned the sports world. According to whispers from insiders and leaked audio from private discussions, a powerful group of veteran players had become so furious about the spotlight shifting away from them that they allegedly threatened to strike if the rookie continued receiving what they believed was special treatment. The scale of this internal conflict was shocking, especially considering that this one player had practically revived the league's financial future almost overnight. But the story runs deeper than just a handful of frustrated veterans. To understand how a professional league nearly turned against the very athlete who was bringing it unprecedented attention, you have to go back to the moment when the resentment first began to grow. Long before the draft even happened, subtle warning signs were already visible to anyone paying close attention. Some legends of the sport began appearing on national television, delivering cryptic warnings about the incoming college superstar. They suggested that the professional game would quickly humble her and hinted that she might struggle to handle the physical intensity of the league. At the time, many fans dismissed those comments as ordinary veteran trash talk, the kind of tough love rookies usually receive. But insiders later suggested something different was happening. According to reports from within the league, these early comments were the beginning of a quiet psychological campaign meant to protect the fragile egos of players who had spent years fighting for recognition while the mainstream media largely ignored them. The historical context makes the tension easier to understand. For nearly 3 decades, athletes in this league battled low television ratings, weak merchandise sales, and minimal public interest. Many players had to travel overseas during the off-season to play in foreign leagues just to earn a stable income. They endured exhausting travel schedules, commercial flights, and long seasons while repeatedly asking league executives for better marketing and higher salaries. Then suddenly, everything changed. Out of nowhere, a 22-year-old college superstar exploded onto the national stage and shattered viewership records across the country. Practically overnight, she brought unprecedented media attention, sponsorship deals, and millions of new fans to the sport. Logically, you might expect the veterans to celebrate the arrival of the person who finally delivered the exposure they had been asking for. But human emotions rarely follow logic. When the rookie signed a massive multi-million-dollar sneaker deal before even playing a single professional game, the tension inside locker rooms reportedly reached its breaking point. Players who had spent more than a decade grinding through the league for relatively modest paychecks suddenly watched a newcomer dominate headlines and sponsorship markets across the entire sports world. Instead of embracing the momentum, resentment began building rapidly behind closed doors. At the same time, the league suddenly announced a major upgrade players had demanded for years: private charter flights for teams during the season. Ironically, the improvement arrived only after the rookie's popularity caused television ratings and ticket sales to explode. For many veterans, that timing felt deeply unfair. Some reportedly believed the league had ignored their safety and comfort for years, only to act once a single marketable superstar arrived. This mixture of jealousy, financial frustration, and wounded pride created a dangerous emotional environment inside the league. Many older players felt their sacrifices were being erased from history, while the media focused almost entirely on one rising star. And before long, that resentment began showing itself directly on the court. When the season finally began, fans expecting exciting basketball instead witnessed a series of unusually aggressive plays targeting the rookie. Hard fouls, off-ball collisions, and confrontational moments quickly became regular highlights on social media. One moment in particular shocked viewers everywhere, a sudden blindside hip check that sent the rookie crashing to the floor while the ball wasn't even in play. The incident instantly went viral and shattered the idea that the league was united in welcoming its new superstar. Even more surprising was the reaction from officials and league leadership. Many fans felt the punishments were unusually mild, leading to speculation that the league was quietly allowing the veterans to send a message to the newcomer. On several occasions, opposing players were even seen celebrating from the bench after she was knocked down, while post-game interviews often featured rivals refusing to mention her name directly. The uncomfortable reality seemed clear. The league's most profitable player in history was becoming a target, and very few people were stepping in to stop it. Veterans wanted to prove that this was still their league, regardless of who was selling the most jerseys. But the real drama wasn't just happening on the hardwood. Behind the scenes, decisions were being made that would spark an even bigger controversy across the sports world. The most shocking moment came when the roster for the world's biggest international basketball tournament was announced, and the most famous player in the sport was completely missing from the list. The snub sent shockwaves through the sports community. Fans, analysts, and even athletes from other leagues were stunned that the sport's most popular star had been left off such a major stage. The official explanation claimed she lacked enough professional experience and that coaches didn't want to disrupt the chemistry of the veteran team. But according to reports from inside the selection process, the real story might have been far more complicated. Sources suggested that several veteran players privately warned that adding the rookie could create serious tension inside the locker room. Whether those claims were true or exaggerated remains debated, but the backlash from fans was immediate and intense. And that's when Stephen A. Smith stepped forward with one of the most explosive commentaries in recent sports media history. On national television, he openly criticized the treatment of the rookie and questioned why the league seemed determined to attack the very player responsible for its sudden popularity. He pointed to skyrocketing ticket sales, record-breaking television ratings, and sold-out arenas across the country as proof that the rookie had become the league's biggest financial engine almost overnight. His argument was simple. Attacking the person bringing millions of new fans into the sport made absolutely no business sense. But what he revealed next pushed the controversy into an entirely new level of seriousness. Shortly afterward, the Players' Union announced it was opting out of the current collective bargaining agreement, a move that technically opened the door for major negotiations about salaries and working conditions. Publicly, the decision looked like a normal step toward improving player pay after the league's recent financial growth. Privately, however, analysts began connecting the timing with the growing internal tensions surrounding the rookie's massive influence. Reports began circulating that some veteran players were pushing for dramatic changes in how the league promoted its athletes. According to insiders, certain voices inside the association were demanding stricter rules to ensure marketing exposure was shared equally among players rather than focused heavily on one superstar. In extreme scenarios, some analysts even warned about the possibility of a temporary work stoppage if those demands were ignored. The idea that professional athletes might risk shutting down their own league, just as it was reaching record popularity, shocked many observers. But the growing bitterness had clearly clouded rational thinking inside certain parts of the organization. Some veterans began framing the rookie's success as unfair privilege rather than extraordinary talent, using interviews and social media to challenge the narrative surrounding her rise. A strange alliance formed among rivals who seemed united by one goal, proving that the league's newest star didn't deserve the overwhelming attention she was receiving. Meanwhile, fans watching the games saw a very different story unfolding. To them, it looked less like competitive intensity and more like blatant bullying disguised as old-school toughness. And increasingly, supporters across the sports world made one thing clear: They weren't buying the explanation being offered by the league's establishment.